In the previous presentation, we looked at the above association. In addressing the question of how we might measure well-being, we first looked at mortality rates and measures of life expectancy. However, we also identified other possible ways of approaching and measuring the concept of human well-being. We saw that the federal government's CDC identified several different aspects of well-being. In this presentation, I would like to look at research on the associations between behavior and well-being, using as our measures of well-being levels of activity and associated disability and levels of social well-being. Beyond looking simply at the expected length of a person's life, another approach to physical well-being considers the quality of that life experience. Living 10 years free of disabilities can be a profoundly different experience than living those same 10 years with one or more disabilities that impair one's level of activity and social interaction. Two common measures used to measure the decrease in the quality of life caused by a disability in combination with any premature loss of life are the disability adjusted life year, often referred to as the daily, and the quality adjusted life year, referred to as the quality. While the daily is commonly used to measure the impact of illness on a large population group, the quality is often used to measure health impacts at the individual level. Both measures categorize different types of disability based on the percentage decrease they cause in the quality of life of a person with that disability. For example, a person who lives 10 years with a disability that carries with it a rate of 60% decrease in quality of life would have experienced 4 quality-adjusted life years, having lost 6 qualities to the impact of the disability. By comparison, a person who lives 4 additional years and then dies, but without any loss of quality of life due to disability during those years, would also have experienced 4 qualities. The CDC reported on a study that examined the association between behavioral risk factors and the level of disability experienced. Consistent with the associations described above between behavior and life expectancy, the report was able to identify clear associations between behavior and disability, with adults with disabilities less likely to be of healthy weight and more likely to be obese than adults without disability, adults with disabilities more likely to be current smokers than adults with no disability, adults with all types of disabilities measured in the study less likely to participate in regular leisure time physical activity and exercise than adults with no disability. An interesting question is the direction of causality in these associations. Does the level of disability make the health risk behaviors more likely as a consequence, or do the health risk behaviors lead over time to increased levels of disability, or perhaps both? The CDC study also identified some clear links between educational attainment as an adolescent or young adult and the level of disability experienced during adulthood. They found the highest rates of disability in those who either had not finished high school or who had graduated from high school but not pursued further education. By contrast, the lowest rates of disability were among those who had graduated from college. In this association, the causal direction seems more likely to be the level of education determining the level of disability as an adult. Self-rated health status has become a commonly used measure of well-being as well. A number of researchers have used this far simpler approach to assessing the health status of individuals. They simply ask an individual how he or she would describe his or her own health using the categories of excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor. It turns out that this simple measure can provide valuable and accurate information about an individual's overall health. By asking an individual to give this single description of overall health, it allows that individual to combine aspects of physical health, emotional health, and levels of disability and functionality in a way that seems most appropriate to him or to her. We should ask how accurate self-rated health status is as a predictor of other measures, such as death rates. In 2007, Lee and colleagues reported on their study of more than 16,000 adults aged 50 or greater. In 1998, they evaluated the self-rated health of each subject using this scale and then followed the subjects for 4 years to measure the age-adjusted death rates. They found a consistent stepwise association between each category of self-rated health and the subsequent death rate, with the largest increments found for those reporting fair or poor health. This finding confirms the validity of self-rated health status as a significant predictor of other more specific measures of well-being. Zajakova evaluated the association between the level of educational attainment and self-rated health status using data gathered as part of a nationally representative study of more than 178,000 working-age adults in the United States. They found that each additional educational credential or educational level that was attained was associated with a significantly better health from high school graduation all the way through obtaining a professional or doctoral degree. They also found significant associations among educational attainment and the health risk behaviors such as smoking, obesity, and diet, and these health risk behaviors and subsequent health status. Sociologists and other social and behavioral scientists often examine the types of social connections individuals make with others and how those connections affect well-being. Social network strength reflects the types of people an individual interacts with, such as family, friends, and neighbors, and coworkers. Researchers are also concerned with the quality of those relationships and the frequency with which a person interacts with those in her or his network. Social networks have been shown to be of particular value to older adults. Crooks and colleagues followed a sample of 2,249 women aged 78 or older, none of whom showed signs of dementia at the initial evaluation. 4 years after their initial assessment, study participants with larger social networks showed a significantly reduced risk of dementia. A study by White and colleagues studied a randomly selected sample of about 3,500 adults aged 60 and over. They looked at the association between the strength of the emotional support these individuals received from their social networks and their self-rated health status. They found that stronger support provided by one's social network was significantly associated with better self-reported health status. It thus appears that the strength of one's relations with others is associated with well-being in a variety of contexts, including physical health status, cognitive ability, and emotional well-being. These findings raise some interesting questions. Does participation in social networks constitute a form of behavior analogous to smoking, diet, and exercise? Are there certain personality characteristics that make it easier or more difficult for an individual to participate actively in social networks? We will return to these issues in a later presentation when we discuss various theories of personality development. Human well-being is experienced in a variety of ways. Mortality rates and associated levels of life expectancy are common measures used to compare societies and social groups. Both are clearly associated with certain behaviors, principal among them smoking, diet, exercise, and excessive alcohol use. These behaviors in turn are closely associated with the level of education one has attained by early adulthood. Well-being, though, is a broader concept than mortality rates alone. One's well-being can be powerfully affected by the level of disability experienced over time and the extent to which that disability affects one's quality of life. Beyond physical impairments, psychological impairments such as depression can also affect well-being. Often simply asking individuals to rate their own health status on a 5-step scale from excellent to poor will provide accurate and useful information about these aspects of well-being. Once again, we see consistent associations between individual health behaviors and these aspects of well-being. Finally, we have seen associations between an individual's social circumstances, approached either as the nature of her or his own social networks or as the level of social cohesion within one's broader community, and well-being assessed in a number of ways. These issues bring us back to a central question we repeatedly encounter. Is educational attainment a form of behavior, analogous to behaviors such as smoking and diet? We certainly know that greater educational attainment usually leads to greater economic well-being, which brings with it various forms of enhanced well-being. We also know, however, that growing up in circumstances of economic and social inequality is often associated with lower levels of educational attainment. This again raises the question of the role of social and economic inequality in affecting well-being, with education as a powerfully mediating behavior. These issues will be the focus of the presentation that comes next.